Welcome back to the PDR Coach Podcast. Today, we have another interview episode with Mr. Rey Sapnu. I don't know if he needs much of an introduction, but I'll give you one. Rey's up in Chicago, owns Precision Dent Removal for 16 years, but has been in the business for 25 years. And he'll tell you where that first 9 years was. It's a cool story to me, at least. He's the creator of the Lift-Rite, and was on the advisory board of PDR Nation when they first got started. And we're going to cover all kinds of things in this episode. Welcome to the show, Rey. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Corey? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, super excited. We talked a few weeks ago, and really the first time we've connected and chatted for a long time. It was super fun. So I appreciate that. And as with most guests, I'm like, hey, let's get on the podcast, have a cool conversation, and let everybody else listen to it because people get a lot of value from it. I start the same way every time because this is a weird little niche that we're in, that we all found this like tiny little, no one's heard of it, PDR dent repair thing. Like, how did you find it?
So it's a funny story. I was in Arizona, was going to college, finished school, and a buddy of mine needed help with his windshield repair company. So he was doing the rental lots, right? Chips and cracks and stuff. So I helped him for a summer. We're out there and we're fixing windshields, and there are these guys banging on cars, right? And they were fixing dents. I'd never seen it, never heard of it. And mind you, Phoenix in the summertime, it's 120 degrees. You know, you're on pavement for as far as you can see.
And this is
this
1996.
Guy, mid 90s, 95, 96-ish. This guy worked for a dent company. He drove a nice truck. He always had a cooler full of Gatorades and all this. And he was banging on these cars, and he was always gone by 2 o'clock. Like, dude, how are you done so early? You know? Anyway, long story short, befriended him, watched him fix a dent in a fender. It was probably this big. I was blown away. I was like, holy cow, you just did that. Fixed it perfect. So I kind of befriended him. Fast forward a little bit. They fired a guy, and he goes, hey man, we just fired somebody. You should try to hop on. So I was like, sure. So I'm like, introduce me to your boss. Introduced me to his boss. I sold myself for 2 hours, man. I'm like, I'll be your hardest worker, blah, blah, blah. Give me a chance, you know. Sent me to California for training, and that started my career with DentPro. And as you know, DentPro, I believe that's the same DentPro, right? Yeah. So that was kind of funny when we first talked. I saw you on one of your podcasts. You were wearing a DentPro hat, and I'm like, I know that logo. So then when we talked, it just so happened that we, you know, were trained at the same place, same facility.
Yeah, my dad was original DentPro franchise in 1991. There's 6 original guys that started like very beginning of PDR in California for sure, mostly across the nation. I think Don Cavanaugh was like 89, 90. But that's really when it was kind of starting to spread around. But yeah, so super, there's actually a lot of guys that have DentPro roots. I know Sal Contreras in Northern California does. Eric Patton, who just created that tool for Anson for the dent dial.
He was in my class.
He was in your. Oh, that's right. You told me that too.
Me and Eric trained together.
Yes,
in that same class.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of roots. I mean, especially in California, Northern California, Southern California, DentPro is really probably still the biggest name. Maybe not in each little town, but definitely the biggest name. And we still use that name today. We were a franchise for 20 years, and then now we actually just license the rights to the name. So technically not franchise anymore. That model is very difficult in the PDR, very difficult. And so, I want to go back a tiny bit. You said you glossed over it, and a lot of people end up doing this and they forget how pivotal of a moment some things are. But you said you sold yourself for 2 hours. Like you had no idea what PDR is. Nope. You didn't know if you could do it. You didn't know how actually hard it was going to really be when you got into it. But what do you what do you mean by selling yourself? Because I continue to do that today. And I think everybody needs to continually do that to our customers, to dealerships, to body shops, to other dent guys, to whatever. What do you mean by that?
So I think many people kind of have this similar story, right? When they first hear PDR or first find out about it, what do they find out? he makes a good living. He makes some good money, this and that. Like I said, this guy was
good
done
work hours, like
great. Make your own schedule. He was
around.
off. He was done with work at 2:00 and on the golf course every day, like mid-afternoon. I was like, I want that life.
How do I do this? Yeah.
And I watched him fix the dent, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I'm like, well, how hard can that be? Dude.
It's not. It's super easy. Yeah.
Dude, I've had labor jobs my whole life, growing up, whatever. I could work with my hands. I'm a quick learner. Bar none, PDR was the hardest thing I've ever learned how to do. And I mean, still learning all the time.
Yeah, but you got that door behind you for the people watching the video. Eventually behind you that you thought you had nailed, and you took it apart and you're like, oh shit.
That door. Yeah. Dude,
you think you understand it all, and then all of a sudden things change. Yeah.
Right. But so, so when I spoke with him, when I mean by selling myself, I'm like, dude, I will bust my ass for you. I want this as a job. I want to learn how to do this. I don't care what it takes. I'll go get accounts for you. And I was dead serious because I wanted that lifestyle that guy had, didn't realize how hard it would be to learn, but I was
probably good, which is probably good
because it humbled the crap out of me. Right. I realized, all right, there's a lot more to this than just going to work every day. You got to learn how to do it. So I put in a ton of effort to learn as quickly as I can and be better. Luckily that guy ended up being a mentor to me. And he stressed, take your time. It's all about quality. And that was it. He's like, don't even worry about speed. Don't even worry about the money. All that'll come. And I took all of that to heart. I was a sponge, man. I took it. Every little bit of advice I could get, I was taking, and I busted my ass. And, eventually got the van, got the shirt, had to go out and get accounts. I went and landed accounts for him, and, ended up loving it, man. I literally thought I was going to do it for a couple of years until I found my path.
A real job.
Yeah. Like, so what was I, what I really wanted to be when I grew up,
Yeah.
Never in a million years that I think it'd take me to where I am today. And I'm grateful for it all the time. Grateful for it.
I think you have that life now, following you on social media. At least, like, we're not friends personally, but on social media, I know you went on a trip, I think Mexico.
We were in Mexico.
Play golf a lot. You had that vision for your life, and 25 years later, there you are. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Here we are doing it, and, again, I'm grateful for it all the time. Like I spoke earlier, that guy that took his chance and hired me and sent me to California. Today is his birthday. I spoke to him earlier, and I never, ever forget to thank him, for doing that. And he gets tired of hearing it. He goes, dude, stop saying that. I'm like, I'll never stop saying that, man. Cause I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him taking a chance. He didn't know who I was,
Right. Absolutely. But you sold him, right? You made a commitment. Yeah. You're like, I want something. I'm going to do what I need to do. Everything I can do now to go get it. You couldn't sell dent repair. You couldn't sell probably your past experiences of doing all this stuff. You're just like, I know I want this. I'm going to go get it. And there's something to say for that. Like, something super important to say for that. And I think that is missing a little bit in our society. If you want something, like, you can't sit around and wait for somebody to give it to you or whatever. You could have been like, hey, I'll take the job. And he's like, no. You're like, okay, you gotta fight for stuff. Really?
Yeah. You gotta work for it, man. And that was the one thing, like, you gotta find your why, right?
Yeah.
Find your why. Why are you getting into it? Is it to get out of an old job, or you want to learn something new? Mm-hmm. You got to find your why, and you got to stick to that, man, because if you don't, you're going to lose motivation, and you're not going to be the best you could be. I mean, it's, we're constantly learning, constantly striving. And at the time, man, I wanted it bad, and I was willing to do whatever it took and learn, be the best I could. So
I still think you're that way. You've said a couple things in the past tense, I was a sponge and all those types of things, but I think you still are. I mean, I know you and I personally are in a 20 group together. Yeah. We didn't know each other before that. I knew of you obviously with the tool and things like that. But you're still constantly learning. So why a mastermind group? How has it helped you? And, let's talk about that for a second.
So, I was approached about the mastermind group right when I was opening my shop. And it was perfect timing for me because I thought it was a great opportunity to talk to other shop owners and like-minded people that have already been there and that are already doing it. I wanted, again, to be a sponge. I wanted to learn. I wanted to find out what it takes. What are the hidden things that you don't realize, come with opening a shop and opening a business? What are all the little things in the gray areas? Sure, the idea of opening a shop and paying rent and then opening doors and getting customers in, that's all great, but there's so much involved to make all of that happen. And so, joining that 20 group, it was perfect because I've learned so much. And without that, I would have struggled through a ton of stuff, and I maybe eventually would have figured it out for myself, but it saved me a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and it put me on the path, the right paths to go where I wanted to go.
That's the beauty of coaching in general, really. And you just encompassed everything I always tell my one-on-one clients. The launch group that I just put out, or the launch pad group I just put out, is that this isn't stuff that you can't do yourself. Like, I don't have super secret tricks, PDR tricks to grow businesses. But what I can do is reduce the time it takes you to do that. Right. It's the same thing with PDR training now. Like, you started in 95, like you went to DentPro training for like 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something. Right. It was good. It was fine. It helped a lot, but now, like, training, the point of training now is that, can you learn PDR on your own? Yeah, you probably can. Will it take a year or two? Probably. Will training reduce that time immensely? Yes.
Immensely.
Right? Same thing with coaching. That's really the purpose of it. Like, what paths can I take? Where have you, basically paying somebody or paying group or being involved in a group that you can take all of their failures and then not do them.
Right.
Like a fast track. It's
a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you think about all the fears that it takes, going in and the risks and all this stuff, and you get kind of lost in all of that, right, when you're first thinking about it. But if you could join a group or get some kind of coaching that somebody could kind of guide you in the right way, and not have to go through the failures. If you could forego all the failures, why not?
Yeah. For a couple $1,000,
dude, make life easier, man.
So let's talk about the shop transition. I didn't know that you just went into the shop. So you were mobile for basically 24 years.
No, well, so I was mobile with DentPro for 10 years. I moved to Denver. I was mobile up there. And then in 2009, Avis and Budget axed their PDR program, their reconditioning program, right?
Yeah.
And so basically I went from making great money a month to nothing
in Denver.
One morning. Yeah, in Denver in one morning.
Damn. Yeah, the rental car stuff is big money. Cars.
Yeah, and it was great. Turn back season comes up and you just as far as you could see money, but they axed their program. So in 2009, I was basically jobless in a way. And we got lucky. Me and a friend got called to go to Austin to do a hailstorm. And up until that point, you always heard about the guys chasing hail, well, we heard about it. We actually hired a guy in Phoenix that had gotten off the road, and he was telling us stories. I was like, wow, what a cool life. He'd been in Europe and fixing hail damage. I'm like, really? So in 2009, we got our opportunity to go, and I was hooked. So from 2009 until 2019, I strictly just chased hail. So in 2018, I get married. I'm on the road all the time. I hated being away.
That's tough.
And so I was like, you know what? 2019, this will be my last year. I'm going to open up a shop and stay home. I was kind of, I missed the hail trail and all that. I miss hanging out with the guys. There was a lot of things that were going on in the industry that were kind of, I kind of saw where things were going, and I didn't like it. And talking to insurance agents or insurance companies and stuff, and they were saying that, PDR is a viable repair now, and more insurance claims are going to be going towards PDR. They're going to be looking at guys with shops. So all of this combined, and I want to just be home. I was like, now's the right time.
Nice.
So decided to get off the hail trail and then open up a shop. It's a year ago this month.
Nice. How's it been?
Yeah. It's been, well, way harder.
Yeah.
Take into consideration, right when I opened my doors, COVID was in, they started talking about quarantine and this and that. And I'm like, great, I just opened up a shop and people aren't allowed to leave their house. I'm like, how how am I going to get people into the door? Right. So, you know, it was a mad scramble to figure it out. I had to reshift my marketing. I saw an opportunity, started putting out ads saying, hey, are you out of work? Is your car just sitting? Now's a great time to bring it to me. And that worked, and it worked. And, you know, for the first couple of weeks, I was slammed here at the shop.
That's killer.
And, you know, you got to put out good work. You got to, I guess, be a good person. People liked my personality. They were leaving really good reviews. They were telling their friends, and, you know, the client base kind of quickly grew considering everything that was going on. Yeah. I started doing a little bit more research, found out that I'm really the only person down here where I live in the southwest suburbs that's doing like the big stuff.
So you did that research after you opened the shop?
Yeah.
Before? Okay. So like I'm in the Launchpad program right now, and like our next, I think, I don't know when this podcast comes out, but this is one of the topics that I talk about is like, do market research for your area and figure out which area you should be in, and then what opportunities are available. Like, is there somebody that crushes retail, but there's like an open door in the wholesale world or whatever? So that's funny that you said like.
So this is what happened. When I decided 2020 I wasn't going to chase anymore, I, you know, was going to be a mobile guy, right? I didn't want to have the overhead or none of this.
Sure.
I was looking at places were really expensive around here. And I was committed to being a mobile, you know, PDR guy. This spot opened up and it was half the price of anything around here. And it was in a great location and this and that. And I'm like, well, somebody's going to snag this if I don't. So I snagged it and signed the lease. And I'm like, all right, now I got to figure out this marketing thing. And I got to figure out, it was literally sink or swim. Like I jumped in the deep end with two big, heavy cinder blocks on my feet, sinking immediately. I had to fast track everything and figure it all out. And the good thing about quarantine was, you know, it was slow in the beginning. So I was at home doing a lot of the back end stuff, the Google stuff, and then the studying on, you know, just keywords, AdWords, all that stuff, how it all works, right?
Yeah, because you hadn't run a business. You didn't have a business, local business. So you were a hail guy.
Hell no.
I mean, you didn't have anything.
No.
No one knew precision dent removal.
Oh no,
in Chicago.
Right. And granted, I grew up here, right? I have friends that know what I do.
Yeah, that's good.
But
start.
Look, I tell people it's a start, but it doesn't get people in the door, right?
Yeah.
So I had to do a lot more. Like when I opened my doors, nobody knew who Precision Dent Removal was.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't exist. I was just a subcontracting hail guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I want to go back to real quick. You said you were up in Denver and you said you got lucky with a call and got a call to Austin. I think fate is a thing or whatever. I don't know about luck, because I feel like luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Did you get completely randomly called out of nowhere to go to Austin? Or did you do anything ahead of time to try to cultivate any relationships within the industry?
So my friend Chris Browning and I, we us both doing it. His friend Chris Lippert was chasing hail. And when they axed the PDR program, I was like, what are we going to do? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, I could call my buddy Chris. He called Chris and said, hey man, they just axed the program. The next day, Chris called Chris and was like, hey, come down to Austin. And that's kind of how we got our foot in the door. And dude, and up to this point, I'd been fixing dents for over 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, something like this. We went to go chase hail. We're like, how hard can it be? Little dents, just a bunch of them? Totally different story.
Whole different field, man. Whole different field. Yeah.
I'll never forget it, dude. Our first car was a little 4-door Mazda 3 wagon. It was red. I'll never forget it. That thing came back 3 times because we couldn't fix it right, because we just weren't using the right tools, the right lights. We had shadow boards trying to fix hail. Like
like the old DentPro. Like,
dude, and thank God that body shop was really cool.
Like yellow boards with black lines on them.
The stand and all that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. And dude, it was another learning curve. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, all right, this is it. We got to learn how to do this. And we had to put our heads down and you know, learn how to fix hail.
I remember one of the first hail cars I ever fixed too, way back in the day. It was at a body shop. I thought the same thing. I'm like, they're looking back. I'm like, they're pretty bad. But I'm like, on side panels, I fix them all day. But I'm like, there's just 80 of them. So it'll take a long time or whatever. And I remember I went on with one of my coworkers on a Saturday and started pushing. We were there for like hours and hours. And then finally I was like, dude, we can't do this. And I went back on Monday and I'm like, we're going to do the push to paint on the roof. Cause I couldn't make them right. It was like cross check. I was like, didn't really fully understand cross checking. I didn't have any hail lights. I just had my little board it was crazy. It's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
For people that think it's an easy transition from hail to like route retail work and vice versa, it's a whole different ballgame. It's crazy.
Totally different ballgame. I mean, when you're talking flat panels and cross-checking it's
different.
Totally different. Totally different.
So you made a tool too. Like you're constant, like striving to learn and grow and do things. You created a tool, and there's a lot of guys doing that. I think it's really unique in this industry that we have so many like technicians that actually create tools. It's awesome. Where'd the idea come about? How was that whole journey of tool creation?
So that was a long journey too. So I was working at a body shop. I was actually here in town. I was working on some hail, and around the sunroof, how you got to glue pull everything around the sunroof. Well, I had a wrist injury from playing golf, and I was reaching up way across like this, and I'm trying to pull a dent, and I couldn't do it. My wrist was just hurting. I'm like, dude, this is dumb. I'm like, let me try your lifter. This other guy, and he had a different mini lifter, same thing, Yeah. I'm like, dude, something's got to change. Yeah. And that's where the idea of doing it straightforward kind of came about. That's awesome. Prototype was made, and it worked. And, it was like 4 years in the making.
4 years
of redesign. And because I mean, a lot of stuff takes money, these things take money and research and tweaking. I mean, I wish somewhere I have like all the different stages of the Lift-Rite, like kind of like the evolution of man, like type thing, like cool. What it is today. Like the first one was super janky, like even just like barely worked, but it worked. The idea was there, and then to what it is today. But it was just one of those things where that tool made it easier. It was just a different, and I thought better way to do it. And to be honest, when I first made it, I didn't know if anybody would like it, and I didn't care. I just thought, if I like it, somebody else will. And if I could put it out there, that could kind of be like my little, here's my little contribution to the industry, for being grateful. And this is what I've learned, and here's what I made, and was hoping that a few guys would like it. And if I could break even, great, and put it out there. But a lot of guys like it. It helps. It's a really good tool and really effective.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. Yeah, I think that there's a huge lesson in there too, in what you said about like selling to one person. I think so many people have this idea when starting a PDR business or any business that they're going to like take care of everybody in town. They're going to like, there's 5 million cars here. My business is for everybody. But I don't think that's true. Like I walk my clients through like creating an avatar, like who's the person you want to sell to, right? Like find a person, and yours like, okay, a hail guy with wrist injuries, PDR guy that's in hail that has a hard time going like this with their hand. I mean, that's like a niche, like the tiniest little fragment of right? I mean, that's who you were catering to. It's like such a small amount of people. Like PDR is tiny, and then hail guys is half of that, and then hail guys that have a hard time going like this with their hand. But it works. Like selling to one person, selling to one type of person, and not trying to solve the problem for every hail guy that there ever was. Like that's how you grow a business and sell something and all that stuff. Because if one person likes it, there's a large segment of people that feel the exact same way.
Well, and that's kind of what it is. I tell people, when people come up to me and they ask like, hey, how do you get started? I have this idea for a tool, but I don't know if anybody will like it. And I'm like, well, do you like it? Like, well, yeah. I'm like, if you like it, chances are somebody else does, right? Because we're all dent guys. We all do the same thing. We all perform the same things in a sense, right? Sure. So the act of fixing these dents, the repairs, the body positions, they're all very similar. So when I created that tool, the ergonomics of it just made sense.
Huge. It does make sense.
And it wasn't made, I didn't make it to replace anything else. It was just another option. And, I thought it was needed. And
because I guess on side panels, it's not as big a deal, right? You go
on side panels. You can still kind of do it if you reach your arm up to make it straight. But again, it's not to replace anything.
Exactly. It's not to replace everything. But if you're glue pulling roast all the time, No brainer.
Yeah, when it comes to rails and roofs and stuff, when you're on a flat panel, I think that's where thing shines.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I mean, the amount of contribution you've had in our industry with with doing the hail side of things, now opening a shop and all that stuff. I know when PDR Nation was coming around, your name was thrown into that mix. I've talked a lot to Ryan Hampton. He came on my podcast and we actually talked about that time, which I think was about 8 years ago or so. Basically a bunch of guys trying to come together to move the industry forward, which is something I talk about a lot. If people listen to my podcast, I ask pretty much every guest, what does the future of PDR look like? You guys are thinking about that back in 2013 or whatever. How did that come about? Is it still going? What do you think about it? All that. Let's talk about PDR, your experience PDR, and how did you get involved with it? How about that?
So Ryan and I were really good friends for a long time, but we had chased and we had partnered up on storms and stuff, and we were just talking, and he was like, man, it'd be great if we could get everybody together. And that's kind of where his idea with PDR Nation started. And he moved forward with it, created a group, ended up getting some advice, and created an advisory board of like-minded people that kind of had the same idea. Like, hey, let's get everybody on the same page. Because even back then, when you're on the hail trail, you're seeing the differences. There's so many different ways that people are running their business, and the prices are all over the map. And insurance companies are going, well, this guy down the street's only charging this much, or he says he doesn't need to glue pull this and blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, we needed to get some kind of unity because the insurance companies were hating PDR guys because they were all over the map. And so that I believe that's kind of where Ryan, got the idea, like, hey, let's create a group, kind of like how NAPDART is, let's create a group to get everybody to be like a unified voice, get everybody together. And I love the idea. I'm like, dude, I'd love to be on the advisory board, because, everything I've learned up to that point, I'd love to share and then at least get everybody collectively together to learn together, right? And move the industry forward.
Yeah.
It's still going on today. I think it's great. Dave Pinto's doing some great things. He's constantly learning. The auto industry is constantly evolving, especially with, electric cars and, OEM procedures and stuff. Dave's on it, man. He's always on it. He's always attending like the seminars and stuff, every chance he gets. And if you're, a PDR Nation member, he divulges all of that. He lets that out and he lets people know. Some of the things, these are all current day situations that we need to learn as the industry evolves. You have to grow with it. And he's doing some great things as far as like learning and then teaching that to other people.
100%. As I look back on that, do you think it was just a little too early? Because there was, and we were just talking about this before the call. It was communication gets better every year, right? The world feels smaller every year. Even now with with apps like Clubhouse, now you can get on and chat with people. Just voice. I mean, there's a million different things. We don't need to go down social media rabbit hole. But when they started, it still is a great idea, but it was like almost too early. Do you think?
Might have been, maybe, because there were so many different ways people were running their business, right?
And it was hard to communicate with all of them. I mean, you had email and Facebook. That was the majority of it, right? I mean,
but I think that even those outlets maybe weren't used the right way. It was a great idea. It was a great idea at the time, and it still is.
It still is
a great idea. Right. But maybe at the time, I don't know if people were ready to because there were so many old school guys. Like you think we're in the wild, wild west now. Back then, dude, it was worse. So you had so many guys that are old school and they weren't willing to change, or they weren't willing to fight for the prices, or, educate the insurance companies, or they were scared to talk to them. Like, if we could all come together and learn to do it together, we could do it together. But I think at the time, maybe people weren't ready for it. People accused it of being like a money grab and this and that, because you had to pay a fee. Well, I mean, it costs money to run the website. It costs money to, to run it basically. So it was.
No one got rich off that. I can guarantee
that. Guarantee it. Nobody got rich on that. But again, I think maybe people weren't ready. Like you said, that's actually a good way to put it. Because at the time, I look back on it now, and at the time, people weren't communicating like we are today, right? In the industry. Like the industry now, I think, is filled more with people that want to help each other, right? Before it was, you're my competitor. We do the same thing, but I'm competing against you. That's fine. Everybody has their own businesses, and there's going to be competition. But why don't we all run our businesses the same or similar in the same fashion and professional manner? And so the insurance companies could look at us as true professionals. And I think now that's kind of where it's going. Like people are really starting to share that info.
Yeah. I think when people hear the word competition, they automatically think it's bad. And I don't think that. I think it's good.
I don't think so either.
I think it's a good thing. I think a big part of the reason why, and I just said this morning to our PDR Launchpad group, because I actually have a guy in Sacramento that's in that Launchpad group. I'm going to teach him everything I know to show how to grow his business in Sacramento, in my competition. Right. Which is fine because of my belief system, because I believe that it's a good thing. I think the reason why our industry is still so not well known, and I formulated this over the last year of doing podcasts with people, is that the competition has been lacking. Because here's the thing, like we have a good business. We have multiple technicians. We have business coming in. We have a reputation. We have a name. We have a good website with rankings, all that stuff, right? I don't go that far out of my way, besides like the online backend stuff, to go tell people that PDR is amazing and that it exists.
Right.
But someone coming into the space into my space, right? And I have Keith out here too with Bullseye Dent Repair, another worthy rival, right? So you try to come and compete in Sacramento, it's getting pretty tough, right? To get on the first page of Google and get the wholesale accounts, it's getting tough. And there's like a dozen other guys that are good. So what can you do to make your business successful, right? What new creative ways do you have to come up with to show people that PDR is awesome? Because you're not just going to start a website and get work. It's not going to happen. So what do you do, right? Those creative ways are how our industry grows. It's new people coming in and finding a way with a why, a strong why of they're going to make this happen, fighting for it. I'm like, okay, I can't win online, not in the next year or two, because there's people that have 7-year head starts, right? I'm not going to walk into the Ford dealers and the Toyota dealers and the Porsche dealers because they've had techs for 15 years. You can get those. I'm not saying you can't get an account from me. You can.
Right.
Not easy. This is not easy.
Right.
So what can you do that's easy? That's how the industry grows. Put 10 people in Sacramento like that. They'll take one account from me, one account from Bullseye, take a couple retails and go find more creative ways to sell. That's how more people understand about the industry.
That's how it grows, right? Because what's the alternative? I think the big misconception is, all right, so you've got this competitor, you come into a market and you're new. For some reason, the initial thought is, I'll just lower my prices.
Yeah, it's so odd. Yeah.
Dude, like that's the worst thing you could do, right? Because now you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're ruining your market. So like you're coaching this guy, he's in your area, and you're going to teach him the right way to do it. And he's got to just learn ways to be competitive, right? Learn. I mean, there's plenty of cars. There's work out there for everybody. Like learn marketing.
There's a bunch of different niches. Like there's a bunch of different ways he could go. I'm not going to say all the things on here because I'm saving it for the PDR Launchpad. There's a lot of different ways to get business that isn't just SEO marketing and creating a website. There's a lot. They take time.
There's a lot
and effort, but so does everything in life. And luckily we're in a position that we don't have to do all that stuff because we're busy fixing dents, and that's fantastic. But if you're not busy fixing dents, do one of these 10 things and you'll be fine. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you have to get creative. Yeah. Like you said, there's all sorts of niches. There's car clubs, there's this and that. I mean, there's, you could reach out to all these different things. I mean, there's ways, there's a ton of different ways, but if you learn how to do it right, learn how to run your business properly, learn how to eloquently explain the process, learn how to be professional, learn how to look professional, talk professional, all that. that word of mouth will get around. The more competition, the more people will start hearing about it, learning about it. Well, this guy does it the same way this guy does it. He's got different marketing. His colors are different, whatever, but they're all kind of doing the same thing and at a certain level, right?
Yeah, people have this, like,
that's the key.
People have this weird idea, not weird because it's been the case for so long, that like it's easy to get into PDR. And it has been the case for so long. Like, as long as if you can push the metal and do a pretty good job, up to 5 years ago, go to any market and you could find business. I mean, that wasn't really difficult. I was trying to look for a guy in Eugene, Oregon the other day. If anybody's looking for a place to move to, go to Eugene, Oregon, because I could not I couldn't find somebody. I called a couple of guys. No, literally, I was all on the webs online, couldn't find anything, all body shops. I know there's dent guys up there. They're just like in the wholesale accounts and like they're there, but like I can't find them. If I can't find them, the customer certainly can't find them. I know what the hell I'm looking for. And so I call guys up in Portland. They're like, no one's really in Eugene. Like, there's still Eugene, Oregon. Like, I've never been there. I don't know how big it is, but I mean, I've heard of it. Like, it's not a tiny city, right?
Right. No, I mean, it's a college town.
College town.
Oregon is there.
Pretty big. So like, hundreds of thousands of people. No dent guy. Fascinating.
You might have just opened a door.
Yeah, now there's going to be, I'm going to look next week, there's going to be 12 guys in but like, there's still towns across the area or across the country that don't have a dent guy. And there's a huge opportunity there, right? Especially as more and more people know about PDR and as we go. So anyways, we went off a little tangent there, but that's all right. So we went down PDR Nation, competition, growth, all that stuff. Like, how do we, you and I, and other guys coming in, what perspective or what tips do you have for them to continually find ways to grow their business and achieve the things they want to achieve? Like, what's helped you over 25 years, a long career in the same industry?
I mean, one, stay hungry, right? I think you have to continually stay hungry. You have to be creative and find ways to grow. And I also am a big believer in investing in yourself, investing in your business, and investing in knowledge. Like what you're doing is fantastic. I think that's great. I think that's like entry level. These, up and coming techs need to learn how to, run a business or be coached. I think, I've been lucky. I'm really good friends with guys like Matt Moore, Don Kavanaugh, guys that are just super passionate about this industry. I try to surround myself or be friends with people like that and be close to them, because you can learn so much just from, them sharing ideas or just bouncing ideas off each other. I think joining mastermind groups, stuff like that. I mean, I think if we all kind of had that same hunger and fire to be better, to run better businesses and look ahead to the future, this industry is awesome. It's an awesome craft, and we're in the early stages. And I think we're in a pivotal stage right now to where, the more people that are getting into the industry, there's going to be more quote unquote businesses started.
Quote unquote businesses.
Yeah. I mean, quote unquote business, you could have a business name and a business card, but are you really running a business, like a true business?
It's a great question.
But I think if we could get more people on the right path to be professional and, I think that's what brings the industry forward. It's moving fast already. So if we could get everybody on the same page and fast track it in a positive way, it'll be good for everyone. And I think all the negative and the naysayers, I think, you got to tune all that out. There's a lot of old school guys, like I said, that are just kind of stuck in their ways. But look, this is a legit business. It's a legit industry. And if you're going to be successful, you have to run it like a business. And you have to see it that way. Look, there's nothing wrong if you just want to fix dents and just make a little here and there and just kind of support your family, that's fine. But you're still running a business. And I think if you're in a certain market and you have competitors, it just behooves everybody to learn more, to be smarter, run their businesses smarter. And then it keeps their markets strong. and that's just better for everybody. So as far as how do we move forward, I think just education, keep educating yourself, keep learning, constantly learning, join mastermind groups, get coaching, find a mentor.
And there's a paid way and a free way. Like
Sure.
This is not an endorsement for necessarily what I'm doing or a 20 group or something like that, right? That is a way. And obviously I fully believe that because I do it and I hire people myself and I have clients, things like that. There's a free way to do it. I did it for free for a long time.
Yeah.
Like pick a fucking podcast. 20 amazing business podcasts out there for free.
Right.
Not even PDR related, just business, marketing.
Right.
Go listen to Russell Brunson's traffic funnels. Go listen to any of them, like millions of free things. And if you want to spend $20, go buy a book, right?
Yeah.
Or get an Audible book. Like we all are driving around. We're all smacking on dents all day. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to audiobooks, all that stuff. There's no excuse there. It's very small. It's very small dollar. If you don't have money and you're like, I want to join a mastermind group, I want to get one-on-one coaching, but I don't have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's okay. Right. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do that. You have to do what you can to grow with what you have. And if that means podcasts and books, if that means the library and you read at night, fine. But don't have excuses about, I can't join a mastermind group, so I can't grow. Nope, that's not true.
No, there's
a million other ways to do it that are very cheap or free. Right. Go to MTE. That's a big one. Get around these people. I don't think there's a single person that's ever called Matt Moore and he was like, oh, sorry, I don't want to talk to you. You know, or you or anybody else, right? Like these people are here, they're available, they're getting less and less available for sure. People were easier to talk to 5 years ago than they are today. And that's going to continue. That's going to continue that way. Like I have people lined up to call, you know, because it's hard to talk to everybody, but you can do it. And if you want to talk to somebody, if there's this one dude you've been following on Facebook or Instagram and he's like your mentor in PDR and he doesn't even know it yet, have you tried to reach out to him? Have you tried to call him?
Reach out. If there's one thing that I've realized in this industry, if there's people that you follow on social media or whatever, everybody's really open and really willing to share. I mean, even if it's just shooting the shit for a little bit, you know, I'm friends with Matt Moore and I tell him all the time, every time I talk to you, I learn something. And I could reach out to anybody that I see on like Facebook and just message them saying, hey man, I saw you on Facebook or whatever. I saw you commented on this thing. I would love to pick your brain or blah, blah, blah. Dude, there are so many people out there that are just willing to share and willing to talk. And
as long as you're okay with hearing some tapping in the background, you can talk to any dent guy any time of day.
Right. Because I think the majority of people kind of want the same thing, right? The majority of people kind of want this industry to be stronger and want people on the same page. So if it means taking a few minutes out of your day to help somebody or discuss things with somebody, why not? I mean, I think the majority of people in the industry are more than willing to do that.
Yeah. Everybody that's been on my podcast or been on another podcast or is posting on Facebook, social media, part of PDR Nation, is a speaker at the Dream event or MTE or something, they all want to see the industry grow. And if they can have an opportunity to talk to somebody and help them move in a direction towards professionalism in the industry, they're going to do it almost every time. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get on the phone for an hour, but like they'll talk, they'll try. You know,
they'll find time. I mean, it might not be today, but it could be tomorrow or whatever. You could figure something out. I'm really looking forward to that Dream event. You know, I'm one of the speakers there and I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be cool sharing. I mean, the whole premise of that is exactly what we're talking about, you know, growing the industry, getting people on the same page. I mean, it's
super cool. So I usually ask to end the podcast what the future PDR looks like. We kind of talked a lot about that, but do you have like a specific chain, like one specific thing that you can think of that is coming down the road over the next 5 years, like whether it's with cars or with our insurance companies or the industry or something that we could, you know, maybe all be paying attention to?
Yeah, sure. I think a few things. One, I think big thing is electric vehicles, right? With that whole evolution in the industry, as far as, you know, the advancements of all these things and all the electronics. And I mean, look, when I got the IMI certification, to work on electric vehicles, I learned so much. I mean, more importantly, I learned how to not die.
And not blow yourself up.
Right. And there's a lot going on. A lot of vehicles are going that way. I mean, so I think that one's huge. That's a big step that we're going to be going into or are into. I think insurance.
Yeah, just a tiny bit though. There's still ways around it. Like for now, if I have a Tesla and I have to meet at the Tesla dealer and they tear it down, I'm okay with that. But soon enough, that's going to be real difficult.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, I had a Tesla come into my shop, and thank God I knew how to power it down. And, it's just something that you have to explain to them, and you have to charge accordingly for it, and they understand, and liability issues and all that stuff. You just got to cover your ass, learn as much as you can about it.
Yep. That's knowledge.
I think insurance too. I mean, insurance, like I said before, insurance is looking at PDR as a viable repair process. They've been watching us. They're kind of opening the doors to us. This job right here is a big State Farm job. What I've got another one coming in next week. I did 2 more last week. And these are all insurance jobs. I mean, insurance is, they see us as a viable option. So you have to learn how to deal with them. You have to learn how to be professional with them and be able to justify all your prices and be able to justify the repair process and this and that. So again, learning as much as you can about your own craft to be able to eloquently describe it and have a good way to show it to them. I mean, all that's really important.
100%. I agree with all that. And EV vehicles is getting talked about more and more as I ask, even when I started the podcast and talk about the future of PDR, hadn't heard that. This was March of last year. Now, more and more, and it's coming.
People are talking about it.
It's coming fast. Like every manufacturer is investing in, EV vehicles to some extent.
Sure.
Whether they have to or they want to, they're doing it. Sure. Whether Tesla made them or not,
Right. Well, and even just the technology in general, even if it's not
EV,
an electric vehicle,
cameras and CPUs,
dude, sensors and lane assist. You take a door off, and if you remove the mirror, if that thing's not calibrated right, dude, I mean, that's disaster waiting to happen down the line. I mean, you have to know these.
So to be clear, if people don't understand, if there's a lane assist sensor in a mirror and you're going to go move over and you take the mirror off and you plug it back in and it isn't calibrated right and it doesn't tell you that a car's over there, the little light in the corner doesn't come on and they hit somebody and kill somebody, some dent guy's going to get screwed one day because he didn't have a pre and post scan or they didn't do the proper processes that way. So that's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
About it.
And I mean, we have to, as business owners, you have to be conscious of that because, I mean, dude, you get sued, you lose everything. I mean, there's so much liability,
So overall, future of PDR is bright or dim?
Super bright, super bright. I'm, been doing it this long and I'm still super excited. I can't wait. I mean, I don't know if I'll still be doing it in another 25 years, but I can't wait to see where we're at in 5 years. I mean, it's moving so fast.
Yes.
I'm excited to see where we're going. And like I said, with all the opportunities out there for people to learn and get better and be better, I mean, that keeps me on my toes. I better keep up because I'm going to have some young guy that just started a business a year ago that's going to be flying past me if I'm not, on it. But no, I think the future is really, really bright. This industry is awesome. The craft is awesome. And only good things can come of it.
I'm going to leave it at that, man. I love it. I appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to, are you going in April? We're meeting in April. Wait, is it April?
Is it April?
In Texas?
Is it? We're trying to meet in April.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's May. No, it's May. It's May.
So May is the Anson event, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be down there?
Yeah.
I was just on the phone with another, I was talking to Jay Gerhardt earlier and we were talking about May going down the Anson.
Yeah. That's the 20 group though. So hopefully I meet you in person. Haven't met you in person.
Right.
But I appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing your story, talking about the industry. Hopefully this resonates with somebody. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if you want to talk to Rey, you could probably reach out to him and he'll talk to you.
Reach out. Yeah.
How do they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Rey's View, Rey's_view on Instagram. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Hit me up on Messenger. Yep.
That's the way to do it. All right. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Talk soon.
All right. Later.